So it's no secret that the Biden administration is struggling to get any bill done. Right now, Democrats have all the power. They hold the presidency, they hold the majority in the House, they hold the majority in the Senate, yet they can't get anything done. And now we're getting reports that another government bill is potentially dead simply because they're taking too long. So I want to address what party leaders are actually saying, but here's what's going on right now. And if you have questions on any of this stuff, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. But ultimately, this is going to hurt our supply chain and how competitive we are as a country against other countries like China. So here's what's happening. So for months, the Biden administration has been telling us that they're going to pass legislation. It's going to make the United States more competitive against other countries like China. And we have seen interview after interview from executives to lawmakers to the president himself stating the U.S. needs to pass the $52 billion investment so that we can have more semiconductors and be more self-reliant. Well, this could be all but dead as of right now, and I want to explain why. It's coming from one person, he has a bunch of power for a specific group. That one person is Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Who he has power over? Well, a lot of Republicans. A lot of Republicans are looking at him because he is a Republican leader. Well, here's what I can tell you. Today he said on Twitter, and I quote, "Let me be perfectly clear. There will be no bipartisan bill," or he says USICA, or USICA, that's the abbreviation of the bill, as long as Democrats are pursuing a partisan reconciliation bill. Now, he is all for killing a bill if he doesn't like it. Just plain and simple. He's right now all for making sure Democrats feel the pain that Republicans felt when Republicans and Mitch McConnell himself were trying to get a deal done. Remember when former President Donald Trump was in office? The last few months, Senate Majority Leader at the time, Mitch McConnell, was trying to get a deal done. Okay, he was working with Steve Mnuchin. He was speaking with Nancy Pelosi, which he doesn't like Nancy Pelosi, right? And then you go back to President Trump, and he tried to work out a deal. Well, Nancy Pelosi strung him along for 6 to 8 months, never got a deal done, and guess what? Now Democrats are complaining that that's exactly what the Republican Party's doing. And essentially, it could be. Because guess what? We got midterm elections. That's what we have. And I told you guys back in 2021 that we are going to have a lot of these political games. That's what we're going to see. They've already started, and they're only going to get worse as we get closer to the midterm election. Now, Senator Mitch McConnell, he is saying this because right now there have been more reports about Senator Joe Manchin and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer getting closer to a deal and finding agreement on lowering prescription drug prices, fixing climate, and also the new tax revenue, which that's not something Republicans want, because if they go after large corporations, and large corporations now have to pay a tax, or a higher tax, that could be a huge issue as far as growth. Now, one thing that Senator Mitch McConnell doesn't agree on is passing legislation to make the U.S. more competitive against countries like China, but then at the same time, again, it goes hand in hand. He's all for making the U.S. more competitive. He's all for growth and expansion, but he's not for growth and expansion. At the same time, we pass another bill, another piece of legislation that would send more business to China due to electric vehicle components coming from there. Does that make any sense? Because honestly, this makes absolutely no sense. And it's because of this that most Republicans are against this climate reform, because right now what's happening is we're trying to go all EV, which again, and I've said this before, I'm a firm believer in EV. I invest in EV quite a bit. That's one of my biggest holdings. I think it's going to be huge in the future. But as of right now, here's the problem. We're relying on other countries. We're relying on China, and that can't happen. Now, here's what Speaker Nancy Pelosi's spokesperson had to say in response to what Senator Mitch McConnell said on Twitter. And he wrote, "Make no mistake, Senator McConnell is now siding with the Chinese Communist Party against American workers and American industry. And why? So that the GOP's pals in Big Pharma can keep ripping off Americans struggling to afford their prescriptions?" Okay, that's one way to put it. And yes, just to be very clear, if Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell blocks this and Republicans block this bipartisan bill, this means that, yes, Big Pharma is going to win again. Prescription drug prices are still going to be very unaffordable, and that's just the way it's going to be. Now, that's not a great solution, but again, that's part of the issue. Now, could we go back to the drawing board, and could the bipartisan group of negotiators, could they negotiate a bipartisan group on just prescription drugs? Yes. Could they do a bipartisan agreement on just climate? Potentially. Could they do a bipartisan agreement on just specific bills and do standalone bills? Yes. But are Democrats going to do that? No. Are Republicans going to do that? Probably not. Could they? Yes. But will they? Probably not. Now, to make matters even worse, what we know earlier on today is that President Biden said he would consider, and he wants Congress to look into a filibuster reform. Well, what we know is that Senator Joe Manchin, he is probably going to want to see how these filibuster talks break down before he decides to pass any bill. And I say this because Senator Joe Manchin, he's not somebody that wants to see any filibuster reform, and he's said this time and time again. But at the same time, he is one of those people that's going to wait and wait and wait and wait a little bit longer, see how everybody else reacts, see what side everybody else is on before he decides to either jump on board or ultimately crush every person's dreams. So, here's what we know. This bill, this $52 billion bill for making the United States more competitive against China, is this Chinese competitiveness bill. This is one that is potentially dead, but at the same time, this is one of those bills that's going to get lawmakers talking, going to get Democrats to negotiate and work together to try to pass a bill. Whether it's that bill or something else, we don't know. But what I can tell you is that party leaders are going to spend, chances are this week, again, because they're on recess already, they're already celebrating the 4th of July, right? So what we are going to see is they're going to be negotiating, they'll be talking, they'll be discussing, they'll be probably doing some Zoom calls and try to figure out where do they go from here. That's probably coming from the Democratic Party. So just keep in mind, that's what we're going to get. They are obviously going to be on recess for a little bit longer, but as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates again. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.